With 100-degree temperatures and even hotter feels like temperatures in the forecast, it is a week where you're going to be seeing the heat risk map more frequently. Wish it wasn't true, but it is. But what does that mean? Hey, Rachel, let's talk about it. What does our heat risk look like this week, and what do each of those levels mean for us right here in the Carolinas?
Yeah, that's right. We will be showing this map a lot. And today, just for an example of what this map looks like, it's your heat impact or your heat risk map. And you'll notice that we've got yellows and oranges for most locations, just a little bit of red out there. So minor, moderate, if not major heat impacts expected for today. But let's look forward from here. And you'll notice as we get towards Wednesday and Thursday, we're suddenly in that major heat risk range. And then by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're into the extreme category. So again, what does this mean? Well, when you have the minor risk, which we have in place for parts of the area, it's just common heat. It's tolerated by most. Just the sensitive groups will start to feel some impacts from that heat. Once you get to moderate, it's common, but heat sensitive groups really should start to heed any alerts and certainly stay hydrated, stay cool, stay inside if you can. Major heat. So when you have that major heat risk, which really starts to move in by the middle of the week, this is when the heat that we're dealing with, the humidity that we're dealing with turns more uncommon, turns more dangerous, and it's going to be imperative to stay cool. And when we get into that extreme range, this is rare, especially when you see several days in a row of these well above average temperatures. That's very dangerous. It's prolonged, and outdoor activities for an extended period of time at that point become ill-advised.
Yeah. So we don't want purple on the map, but it looks like we will.
Right.
What does the heat risk map really take into account to get to that extreme level?
Yeah, absolutely. There's several factors that go into this, and so I'll walk through some of these for you. You'll notice that the top one here, if those temperatures that are expected are warmer than the top 5% of the hottest days for that date in history. And that's just one of the factors that's considered by the National Weather Service, who really makes this map. It's also going to be looking at the forecast-driven humidity. It's going to be looking at the duration of the unusual heat, which is why extreme is that category that we're going to be in, especially as we wrap up the week, head into the start of the weekend, because we're going to be talking about well above average temperatures, those rare 100-degree days, several days in a row. And then the last question that's asked when building this graphic is, will temperatures pose any heat-related complication risks? And I think that that's going to be a possibility. We're going to have to watch out for heat exhaustion, heat stroke. So those symptoms are things to be mindful of heading into those outdoor plans, especially since it's such a busy weekend. It's the 4th of July weekend, and there's going to be sunshine, but it's going to be dangerously hot outside.
People can say, it's the South, it's hot. No, this is different, and it really doesn't happen that often. So we really got to pay close attention.
And heat-related deaths are the most common in terms of those weather fatalities.
Important to remember. Rachel, thank you. Don't go anywhere. There is more to come here on Your Side Tonight.